at the deepest level, we are not hungry enough to experience the true nature of love. Don't ask me how far I am in my journey. Ask my woman, because she'll be able to tell you.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University. Today we have a very special guest. He is the author of Understand Women Better and a teacher of masculine and feminine polarity. He also has a wonderful Instagram page with a ton of thought-provoking quotes. You know I love those pages. We are sitting down with Lorin Krenn. Lorin, my friend, what is going on?
It is an honor to be here, guys.
We are grateful that you are spending the time with us today, and this will be dropping a little bit later. We've done a lot of relationship with others and relationship with yourself episodes, so this falls in line with that. So, Lorin, something you talk about a lot is conscious relationships. What's the difference between a relationship and a conscious relationship, in your opinion?
It's a great question to start with, and there's a lot of subtle nuances here, but the main difference is let's call it toxic relationship. I don't like the word toxic, but let's just use it to generalize and to make it simpler for definition's sake. A toxic relationship leads nowhere and is led by trauma. So all you have is a state of confusion, right? No matter what happens, there is challenge arises, and afterwards you're left with confusion. Now, the main difference is the main embodied difference in a conscious relationship. There is also challenge, because relationships are challenging to some degree. No matter how awakened or enlightened or how much inner work you have done, there's going to be tension, there's going to be friction, there are going to be moments of challenge. But the difference is, in a conscious relationship, these challenges lead to something. Afterwards, you find yourself in a state of growth, more bliss, more harmony, deeper connection. So we could say a conscious relationship is a constant deepening of intimacy, connection, polarity, passion, and safety. That doesn't mean it's always perfect. That doesn't mean it's always just happy. No, there are difficult moments, but in the end, there is always a deeper intimacy, there's a deeper safety. But in a relationship that is not conscious, that doesn't happen. You're left with this constant confusion, and there is no growth.
Lorin, do you think that people have unrealistic expectations when it comes to relationships? Because there is conflict, because conflict is required for growth. Do you think people think it should just be easy and flowing all the time, and there should never be any conflict between the partners?
No, I mean, one of the greatest misconception that people have when they enter relationships is that they think, okay, that relationship is going to fill a void. That relationship is going to make me feel better about myself. But that is never the case. Relationships trigger and bring out that which is unhealed, that which you're unaware of. So if you have done a lot of work, if you are at a great place with yourself, inside yourself, then your relationship is going to become the embodiment of that. But if internally there's a lot of things you're avoiding, there's a lot of things you're not working on, then your relationship is going to be the mirror and the thing that will constantly bring this to the surface. And people, in my opinion, relationships are like this. Relationships offer the most profound growth and healing and awakening available to any human. But in order to do so, we have to let go of our expectations that it's all going to be easy. And we have to understand that, okay, a relationship is more than just intimacy, more than just having a partner. It is actually a place for profound growth. And in my opinion, the deepest growth.
I remember we had someone named Tori Leto. She's now become a dear friend and client. We had her on stage at one of the events that we co-hosted, and she said right on stage, she said, first and foremost, you got to understand the point of an intimate relationship is growth.
Yeah. And I that's think, the truth. Yeah.
Right. And if you go into it from that frame, Now the challenges become an opportunity rather than oh, this might not be the right thing.
Yeah.
And so it
Yeah.
changes the frame. I'm coming off of my 2-year anniversary as of last night, and best night ever. And as a gift to me, but also to us, Emilia showed us a slideshow of the last 2 years. And oh my goodness, it's wild. So she actually showed me a video that she sent to herself. She takes videos to herself, to her future self, to look back on. And she said, I think I just met my husband. And I'm so scared, but I'm so excited. I just
Yeah.
don't want to F this up, is basically what she said in the video. And this is the first time I've ever seen that video, by the way. That was at our second date.
And
Go ahead.
there is something you mentioned here, brother. I don't want to F this up. This is where the profound growth is in relationships. There is something miraculously that happens in relationships. People who indulge in very negative habits, for instance, even to some, let's say, not an intense addiction to something, but that can also be. But let's say people indulge in negative thinking, show up in a negative, in a way that creates misery, that creates suffering. Now, if they fall in love and they truly love the other person and they really want to make that relationship work, it's almost as if the relationship forces them to grow. They need to show up in a different way. They need to change how they're showing up. And most people, it's almost like a relationship holds you accountable. A conscious relationship holds you accountable. It forces you to do the work. My relationship, I see it as a spiritual training ground, but not just as a spiritual, as a training ground in general. So every little thing that happens in my relationship, that's my training. That's what I need to work on. Not what I think I need to work on in my mind, but what is actually appearing in my relationship. And if I want to make my relationship work, I have to keep showing up and keep showing up. So I believe wholeheartedly when someone is not in a relationship, they don't have that accountability and they don't have that mirror. And when you are in a relationship where you truly love the other person, then you need to show up. You just need to. And that creates incredible change in people.
In the video, she literally said, like, Emilia, do the work. Do the work necessary to make this happen. And it's wild to look back 2 years. And she was saying after our second date, I just met my husband and I'm excited, but I'm scared. And I think that that's when we're in alignment, when we're excited, but we're also scared. Kevin and I have been talking a lot about our business and the growth of our business and what we're going to do with software tools and stuff like that. And I told him straight up, I said, I'm nervous, but I'm also so excited. I don't even think it'll be that difficult. I just think that it'll be difficult not to do the thing, but the inner work I'm going to have to do when this really does take off. Not just the podcast, but the other things we're doing. And so my question for you is, you keep mentioning the mirror and accountability, which I absolutely adore, because it's also sort of like the reason why. If you love your partner enough, that's the reason why to do the work that you might not have done for yourself. You'll do more for your relationship than you'll do for yourself if you're truly in love. And I think that's a beautiful part of the human condition. When you say mirror, for our listeners, what do you mean by a mirror? I know that it has to do with feedback and a raised awareness of self. But what is your definition of mirror in a relationship? And can you give us an example of a mirror that you had to face in yours?
That's a very, very powerful question. I like how deep you go, guys. Yeah, what is the exact definition of a mirror? That's a good question. Yeah. I'm going to give a personal example here to make things really practical. So, one example of my relationship was that of the mirror is that the way I work is very artistic. I write a lot, I teach groups, and it's just the whole process is very creative, very artistic. Of course, there is structure to it, but it's just the way my mind works is more abstract, right? So what happened again and again in my relationship is that I would forget daily tasks, like, for instance, making the bed or things like that, right? And we both have our own system there, who does what and who is better at what, right? Who is quicker at what. And something that would come up again and again and again is me forgetting about these daily tasks. And again, the same conversation would come up. Hey, you didn't do it again, you didn't do it again, you didn't do it again, you didn't do it again. And my response was defensiveness. So instead of just saying, hey, I owned it, I'm gonna do better, or just saying, hey, I'm sorry, I'm gonna do it now, or whatever, my first response was defensiveness. And being defending myself. So here my relationship is a mirror of something much deeper. Is it about making the bad? No. Is it about this? To some degree, maybe 5%, but 95% is the mirror that I've got a problem with needing to defend myself. And if you go deeper, there might be a problem with I have to convince someone of something. I have to protect something in that moment. So when I went deeper into that, I realized, okay, wait a second, this is about ownership, owning my mistakes and saying, yes, I did a mistake and I own that. No, always putting it away. Yeah, I didn't do it because, and I was doing something more important and this was more important, but it's all bullshit. I wasn't owning that I wasn't showing up when it comes to this. And instead of just saying, hey, I own that, you're right, I would even come up with excuses. Yeah. And this goes even now to entitlement. I would say things such as, yeah, but this is arrogant to some degree, but I share my truth. I see nothing in trying to act cool or something like that. um, so I would say in an arrogant way, yeah, but you've never been with a man like me, right? But all of this is revealing in that moment that I'm not, that there is something I'm triggered. There is something I'm not looking at. It's no longer about making the bad. It's now about ownership. It's about confronting when I do a mistake. It's about entitlement, thinking that I am potentially more important than doing the bad, right? What I'm doing is more important. So all these things, that shows me where I need to work on, right? I don't need to look where I need to work on. I just need to look at my relationship. That's where it's almost like someone gives you a piece of paper and says, look, you need to work on this, that. Yeah.
Lorin, we're leaning into our explicit truth, especially on this platform, because we just believe that's how people are going to grow. And Kevin has said to me behind the scenes after certain interviews with really, really wealthy, really, really successful people, he said, Alan, I know that his wife is unhappy.
Wow.
And
wow.
the
Wow.
reason
That's the fucking truth.
Right. And it's usually because of so much ego and entitlement and lack of ownership like you're talking about. So Kevin and I have understood we aspire to be as well-rounded as possible.
What is up, you guys? My name is Gabby, and I just want to give a huge shout out to Kevin and Alan for the community that they have created and the mission that they are on over at Next Level University. Never in a million years did I think when I started listening to the Hyperconscious podcast 2 years ago that I would be as invested as I am today. But here we are 2 years later. I have done group coaching. I truly look forward to every single episode they drop, all of the things that they're teaching. And I am now doing one-on-one coaching with Alan to help level up in my business. And all I gotta say about these guys across the board is they are true, genuine souls. They mean it when they say they are heart-driven, and they mean it when they say they are no BS. And I think that's probably my favorite part about them. They get rid of the fluff. They give you tactical tips and tricks to help you level up in your life, to help you make strides towards your goals. And they've created a community of like-minded people to lean on each other at every single stage of life. So guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart for the impact that you have made in my life, and I am so very excited to see the impact and the waves that you make from here on out.
We aspire to not just be financially successful, but also healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, but also in love. And so you're saying that, the health of your relationship, your intimate relationship in particular, is an indicator of the work you're doing in here. That's now I understand why Kevin was saying, like, I doubt his wife is happy, because he's very successful externally, but the inner work is not happening. Have you noticed with the masculine energy, there's a major focus on the external? And I've been guilty of that too.
Beautiful. So. Yeah, beautiful. Don't ask me how far I am in my journey. Ask my woman, because she'll be able to tell you. I think that goes really in there. That's the thing. Not that she's the one who can, not that she's beyond me. I'm not putting her on a pedestal, but it's the truth.
Yeah,
How do I really show up behind the scenes? not anywhere in public or in the teacher role and when I write things, but no, how do I show up behind the scenes? So she is the only one who can really tell how far I am in my journey of awakening. And yes, that is something that I see in the masculine. And I think the danger here is that we can't just say be vulnerable. Just be vulnerable and share everything, because the way I see it, if you want me to talk about this, I can elaborate a little bit more on that. But the way I see it, men currently show up either hyper masculine. There's a sense of I need to prove that I'm alpha, and there is no vulnerability, there is no emotion. But then you have the kind of I like to call it spiritual bypasser or softy new age guy, and that's the kind of overly sharing everything. I'm so vulnerable and I'm feeling this, and now I feel this, and now I have this thought, and now this, and that is too much. So to just say men need to be more vulnerable is not the truth. The way I like to describe it is warrior vulnerability. And what warrior vulnerability means is you share your truth. So to put it into a metaphor, your heart is open, your spine is strong. And to make it practical, you share something, but without internally collapsing, right? But it's a whole other topic. I mean, I just went sideways here, but
No,
yeah.
no, that was
powerful.
That was wonderful. I want to, because obviously we're deep, and I like that. I like going deep. I want to explore this. A lot of people say I attract the wrong people in. And yes, I think we all do. But as you become a more attractive, somebody who is capable of attracting more in, don't you have to get better at filtering and making sure you're saying yes to the right things? Where does that come in, Lorin? Of like, yeah, of course, as you elevate your consciousness and you become more attractive, you're going to attract more in. How do you focus and practice filtering out what doesn't serve you?
To me, the most important indicator is how do I feel in my body? Do I feel safe? Let's say it's a person, let's say it's a business proposal, whatever. Do I feel safe in my body with them? Because through my work is a lot about the body, tuning into the body, what's happening. Because we make so many stories in our heads, stories about what we think, what's supposed to be, but what's really happening in my body? Because the body is responding to the present moment, to the actual truth of the moment. The mind is responding to the past and the future. So I'm tuning into my body, like, okay, does this feel 100% aligned? And you shared this before, Ellen, I think, about alignment. This is really about alignment. Is this 100% aligned? Amazing. Let's go. If it's only 99% aligned, maybe not, because I'm only here to do what feels aligned and not what doesn't. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. Yeah. I think from a practical standpoint, right? I'm a tactician. Alan knows that. Lorin, you're learning that. How does somebody, I think like we might forget that we understand what alignment feels like at a very, very deep level. And every day we try to understand it a little bit more. What does feeling out of alignment feel like for somebody who is tuning into this for the first time?
Great question. I can actually describe this quite viscerally, like how it feels in your body. I think that's most practical. At least how it is for me and how I notice with most of my clients is when you're out of alignment, everything feels hard. Everything is hard and rigid and most often confusing. So that's just the nature, the energetic reality of when you're out of alignment, everything feels hard, really hard. And when you're in alignment, there's a sense of everything becomes effortless. Doesn't mean it's easy, still requires intense discipline, dedication, and showing up again and again and again. But there's a sense of ease. It's almost like it's unfolding perfectly. And also viscerally how it feels in your body. When you're in alignment, you are in your body. You feel at home in your body. There's a sense of warmth. There's a sense of safety inside yourself. I feel safe in my body. Wow. I feel relaxed in my body. But when you're out of alignment, we're most often not in the body. We're in the mind. We're thinking.
So, Lorin, you have seen many, many relationships. Emilia and I also do relationship coaching, and we're coming up on 62 weeks straight. We actually just surpassed our 62nd week in a row doing relationship talks with couples all over the world. Awesome. I've learned so much. And, you know, my girlfriend, this is definitely her genius zone more than mine, but I've learned so much. Her framework is basically this: core aspirations, core values, core beliefs. That's alignment. Are you aligned with your core aspirations, core values, core beliefs? Core beliefs come from your past up to this point. Core values are how you show up in the present. Core aspirations are who you aspire to be. And so I think of each individual, like Kevin right now. Kevin is an amalgamation of his past, his present, and his future. You know, and so sometimes you have to shift some of his beliefs from the past in order to get to who he aspires to be, but it's all linked. So my question becomes, when you have two different individuals come together in a relationship, especially an intimate relationship, and you merge lives, you integrate lives, I've found that core aspirations, core values, or core beliefs sometimes are in conflict. Have you ever seen, I guess, what's an example that you've seen where the core aspirations didn't meet? Because if I want to drive to California and Kevin wants to drive to Mexico, we have to leave the same car. We can't stay in the same car. So can you go into that a little bit for our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great question. It's a great question. I think this also goes hand in hand with compatibility, right? Relationship compatibility to some degree.
For sure.
The way I see it is we don't need to have the exact same ideas about life and how everything works. To some degree, yes, our interests need to connect to some degree. But the number one importance is both need to be able to want to go as deep as possible. That needs to be the core intention. So when that is not there, everything else is basically useless. In my opinion, this is the most important, is basically being all in. And from that state, mostly then everything starts to align.
My goodness. So from a statistical understanding, because I am a very and I'm sure you've already understood this, engineer brain, computer engineer, and I think of everything in terms of statistics and numbers, everything. Statistically,
I'm the exact opposite.
Perfect. So we'll find something in the middle here. I look around and on Lorin, it makes me sad. And I can't pretend that my past relationships were magnificent. As a matter of fact, in comparison to what I have now, they just weren't. And I understand why that is now. The core intention of wanting to go as deep as possible. How many relationships, statistically speaking, do you actually think have that subconscious and conscious core intention?
1 to 2%.
Oh my God, that's so
1 to
depressing.
2%. In my opinion, relationships are the collective topic in this world on a global level where we fail at an incredible scale. And it is the most important thing. For me, I think, who said it? Was it Tony Robbins or Esther Perel? The quality of your relationships determine the quality of your life. I'm not totally sure who said this. This is not a quote that comes from me. I always quote others when it's from someone else. And it's the truth. It's all about relationships. And it's quite fascinating to see that this is a topic, or an area topic. It is an area where we fail at a collective level, and also where there are resources, but still we're almost overflooded with resources. And I think, not to sound arrogant or anything, I think relationships can only be taught by someone who has done the work and experiences deep and safe intimacy. Relationships cannot be taught by someone who is not experiencing that as a grounded reality in their everyday life.
This was wonderful.
Kev, I know. Go ahead.
Oh, we just got to go, Alan. We got.
I know.
Remember, the StreamYard timer is not
Yeah.
the correct one.
Yeah, I just looked at the clock and
It's
I'm
all good,
realizing
it's all
I have
good.
one more question, but I can't do it.
Lorin, where can people find you? You're a podcaster also. I love your Instagram page. That's where I found you. Quotes for days. Where can people learn more about you, and what do you have going on, my friend?
Yeah, the best main social media platform is Instagram. I've also got a podcast, the Lorin Krenn podcast, which is going to be rebooted soon with a new series and new episodes. And the other thing is the website lorinkrenn.com. There you find workshops, programs, membership, the book, one-on-one coaching, basically everything. So lorinkrenn.com or Lorin Krenn on Instagram. That's it.
2 questions answered in one word because we got to go, or one sentence each. The first one is what can you guarantee if people were to go to your website? Like, what's the one guarantee, even if it's small, in terms of improving? That's what this podcast is about, how to improve 1% per day every day. That's why we do episodes every day. So what can you promise? And then the second question is, you said 2%. You said that, and I agree, when it comes to relationships, that's where we are failing at an epic scale. Why is that from your perspective?
One word. That's a tricky one.
One sentence each.
One sentence. I can guarantee people that when they go on my website, that they are going to realize that there is nothing wrong with them, and that there is nothing wrong with them, and that the reason why they experience all these difficulties in relationships is because no one has ever shown them the way. And yeah, and what was the second question again?
Second question was, you think that this is where globally we are failing to the greatest extent is in relationships, and I agree with that, especially after doing this relationships work. Why is that from your perspective?
Because at the deepest level, we are not hungry enough to experience the true nature of love.
Wow.
Fire.
My goodness.
That's the title of the episode. Lorin, thank you so very much for joining us. We are grateful. I'm very glad we did this. I'm so glad I came across your profile. And again, I got to hang out with Lorin behind the scenes before Alan showed up, and this is a person who practices what he preaches. And honestly, there's no ego behind the scenes either. So very grateful you joined us. All the love, Lorin. Thank you again.
Thank you, brothers. Have a good one.
You as well. Thank you for joining us. Stay connected.
See you
Talk
guys
soon, brother.